Ndakutu Yekoyai, my friend, my childhood friend. We started together here, uh, early primary school here. We moved together to Binas and we left there 1998. Comrade Isaac Yeto Bello, other past presidents of BNOC that are here, our father, our teacher, the man without him, many of us will not be here. We are happy he's in our midst. Pa JJ Agbange, I'm proud of you, sir. Time is double. So I will speak to the paper. Initially, I had a well-prepared presentation. Because of the situation and time, I'll just use maybe 5 minutes to look at the thesis, the message of the paper. And the online, you agree with me that even from the title of today's topic or today's lecture, the message is clear. And key title, cultural consciousness and social solidarity, interrogating the ingredients for ethnic greatness. There are 3 things here. The first one is cultural consciousness. Now, if we go cultural consciousness, what are we talking about? We are Bassa-Nge. Or if you like, we are Nupes. Because there is no argument about that. That Bassa-Nge, historically speaking, culturally speaking, are Nupe. So there is no even argument on that. But whether we are called Bassa-Nge or Nupes, the culture remains the same. The history remains the same. So when we talk about cultural consciousness, it simply means how aware are we concerning our culture? And what is culture? Culture means everything about us. You go to Nigeria, you get to Nigeria, everything about us is culture. So how aware, how conscious are we about our culture? That is one leg. Then the other leg of the lecture is social solidarity. What does that mean? Very simple. It has to do with unity. It has to do with cohesion. It has to do with integration. In other words, as Bassa-Nge, care awareness no identity culture and care the and how can we translate that to having unity, cohesion, regardless of our differences? Because we must agree that even as Bassa-Nge, despite the fact that we have the same history, we have the same culture, there are observed differences. Maybe religious angle, political angle. So, but the fact is that we are Bassa-Nge or we are Nupes. So the topic or the lecture for today is just to remind us about who we are, what we are supposed to be doing, or what we are doing and what we are not doing, and the implication of our action on our unity. That is just what discussion, this paper, or this lecture is all about. And today, I want to tell us that as Bassa-Nge, nobody can be blamed or praised for our development or underdevelopment. The only set of people that can be blamed for that are the Bassa-Nge themselves. And what do I mean by that? Oftentimes, we always say, oh, the Igalas are dominating us, especially in Bassa local government. But the fact remains that the Bassa-Nge in Bassa local government have not yet recognized the power they have in terms of our culture and in terms of our unity. So the problem is actually from us, first and foremost. In other words, for us to develop as a people, we must recognize that nobody, no ethnic group will come and develop our land. That development has to be initiated, it has to be implemented or executed by Bassa-Nge themselves. But the question is, how aware about our culture? How aware about our strengths? That is the question for today. And the essence of this gathering is to remind us, to reawaken our spirits that it doesn't matter population here, because look at this gathering. Now, President, they give his speech, he told us that BNOC has over 7,000 members. That is correct. But if you take the statistics, we are less than 200. But it doesn't matter. You know why? Because the action that we can take, just 200 of us, if we are committed, if we are loyal, can change a lot of things. And our action can attract more people to join us in the movement. So the question is, it doesn't matter whether we are much or not. The number we need to be doing certain things, and we need to be doing it right. And for us to achieve our greatness as a people, we must recognize that we are different from other ethnic groups. And that thing that differentiates us is our culture. And I said before, culture, everything about us, our language, the name we bear, our religion, our occupation. But let's just take two aspects of our culture. And of interest to me, and probably to us, is our language and our names. Now, I have decided to choose these two because these are elements of our culture not show immediately who we are. By the time Bassa-Nge Online, people already know that you are not Yoruba. They already know that this ethnic group cannot be Hausa. So they will begin to ask questions. From there, Bassa-Nge Online. So it's an important aspect of our culture. Then our names. Oka Osokolayam, Ayemlo, Mopa. Even if Okado United States of America or Canada and Oche Bassa-Nge Online, Oti Wosunoga, you'll be forced to ask questions. You know why? Because it's not just something to do with your culture, where you are coming from. But the question today, how aware are we about this element of our culture? How many of us bearing this name? How many of us are ready to give these names to our children? It's very important. It is an aspect that will show God we are conscious of our culture. The language is another aspect that we cannot take for granted, regardless of where we find ourselves. Whether you are in Spain or not, language is an integral part of every culture. And today, studies have shown that in years to come, if we don't do anything about it, Bassa-Nge language will go on extinction. Now, sometimes you will not understand. Okay, Bassa language, Bassa-Nge language, but look at it. In 90s, I remember growing up in Goloko here. The population we have at home, then it's not that population we have today. Or something has happened, or something is happening. People are beginning to leave the rural area. So you have rural-urban migration. And that alone is a threat to our language. So Tabasa, no problem. Bassa-Nge Tabasa, they are moving, and immediately they leave the village to cities. Ayabasa and Nugodegi. Now the implication of that is that with time, as I know, Tabasa will be reducing. And as I locate Bassa-Nge can reduce. It may not be in our own time, but whatever we are doing here has an implication for future generation, and that is the essence of this discussion. That Nyondo Neka Jigoro, as a people, it's not for us at the moment, but for our children, for our grandchildren. And if they do get, they are going to face the consequences. So please, the things we need to be doing is for us to know that as Bassa-Nges or as Nupes, there are things that we cannot afford to take for granted. And those things indicate, God, yes, we are aware of where we are coming from. We are aware of our culture. We are aware of our existence as a people. And at the end of the day, together as a people, there is no doubt. It doesn't matter population here. The greatness of Bassa-Nge land, the greatness of Bassa-Nge Nation is in sight. But that greatness is in our hands. That greatness is a function of what we are doing as a people. The action we are taking today has fundamental implication for tomorrow. So without wasting much of our time, I just want to end by saying that first, there are behaviors we must exhibit if we must continue to exist as a people. One, we must protect our language. It's very important. Regardless, we must what? Protect our language. Two, we must protect our names. And when I say names, I am talking about Bassa-Nge names. It's a form of identification anywhere you are. As a Oka Wosnochi, as a Keti Gondoro, you already know that this person is coming from where you are coming from. Another thing we must encourage is intra-ethnic marriage. There's nothing wrong getting married to somebody outside Bassa-Nge. Nothing wrong. But we should encourage ourselves to marry within because it has its own advantages. And even if you marry outside, there is nothing wrong for you to protect the integrity of your culture as Bassa-Nge. So please, at this point, because of time, let me conclude by saying, God, our development, our greatness, our progress as a people is a function of how aware we are of our culture, and it's a function of our togetherness. Thank you, and may God bless you all.